animals that live in shells. Some live on land and some live on water. Let's review what we've learned, okay? So let's see. The turtle lives on the land snail lived on the land, and the crab all lived on the land. Now the turtle and the crab, sometimes they go into water, but they really live on land. Alright, today we're going to learn about more animals who live in shells and where they live in the water or the land, and we'll sort them out as we read them. This book is called What Lives in a Shell. It was written by Kathleen Widener Zofield and illustrated by Helen K. Davey. We read part of our story yesterday, so let's pick up where we left off. You may find snails buried in the sand. Some of them do not look much like the land snails. Whelks and conchs are types of snails that are found only by the sea. Here are some different kinds of sea snail shells. Here's Kellett's whelk, Dyer whelk, Santa Barbara spindle shell, western ribbed top shell, pale northern moon snail, Junonia, giant Atlantic pyrum, and the hawkwing conch. Have you ever seen a snail shell walking along on crab legs? A hermit crab has hard claws in the front, but the back end of its body has a soft shell. Its shell is too soft to keep it safe from enemies. A hermit crab lives in an empty snail shell. After a while, the hermit crab grows too big for his shell, so he looks for a bigger one. Some are too big and some are too small. Finally, he finds one he likes. He throws away the old shell and crawls into the new one. Now the new shell is his home. The snail shell helps keep him safe. What do you think would happen if a hermit crab couldn't find a snail shell that it liked? Well, he wouldn't be very protected, would he? And enemies could get him. Uh-oh. Alright guys, so we just met another animal that lives in a shell, and it was a hermit crab. And you see him right here in a snail shell inside of it, okay? Hermit crabs are kind of funny. There are different species of hermit crabs, but most hermit crabs live mainly in the water. So I'm going to put him on the water side. You can look for clam and oyster shells at the beach too. Clams and oysters are animals. They have no legs, they do not have heads or tails. Their bodies are soft, but they are animals. Clams and oysters grow two hard shells. The top shell and bottom shell look almost alike. The two shells are connected by a hinge. Scallops also have two shells. Here are some different kinds of scallop shells. Here's the lion's paw scallop, the zigzag scallop, the ravenel scallop, the Atlantic deep sea scallop, the San Diego scallop, and the giant Pacific scallop. Most clams and oysters hardly move at all. They open up their shells to take in food and water. They close their shells tightly when enemies are around. What do you think would be an enemy of a clam or an oyster? Anything that wants to eat it. So birds like to eat it. Humans love to eat clams and oysters. Some scallops can swim. A scallop does not swim like a fish though. First it opens its two shells, then it snaps them together quickly. This gets the scallop where it wants to go. Do you think a scallop can swim very fast? I'll put a video of a scallop swimming on the next page of your seesaw assignment. Alright, so we just found some more, or just read about some more animals that live in shells. One was a clam, okay, and so this is what a clam looks like right here. And we know that clams mainly live in the water, so we're going to stick them there. And then we also have an oyster shell. They also live in the water. And then this is the scallop. You remember all those pretty pictures of the scallops? And they mainly live in the water. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Alright, now there is one more animal that we kind of heard about and it was the sea snail. Remember, the hermit crab goes and finds its shells to live in, and so I'm going to put it on the water side too, because they mainly live in the water. When you find a shell, carefully look inside of it. It'll probably be empty. If a shell is empty, it may mean the animal has died, or it has outgrown the shell and left it behind. Where do you think you could go that you would find a lot of shells? Have you ever been to the beach? There are a ton of shells at the beach. If the animal is at home, you can watch it for a while. See if you can tell how it eats. Does it move? What does it do when it feels frightened? Why should you leave an animal where you find them and leave them alone? Well, you never know what that animal might do when it feels frightened. And some animals, like crabs, have big claws or something that might hurt you, so you want to leave them alone to be safe. When you go, leave the animal where you found it. Animals are happiest in their natural surroundings. If a shell is empty, you can take it home with you. Why should you leave animals where they are? Well, that's their home. They want to stay at their home, just like you like to stay at yours. If you're looking at shells in a state or a national park, though, be sure to ask a ranger or game warden before you take any shells from the park. Try to find as many different kinds of shells as you can. Whether the shells you find are big or small, plain or fancy, remember, a shell is someone's home. Alright, we finished our story, and here are all the animals that we heard about in our story that live in a shell. Here are the animals that live in the water: hermit crab, a clam, an oyster, a scallop, and a sea snail. And then over here we have our land animals that live in a shell. You have a land snail, you have a turtle, and then these kind of crab, the regular just red crabs, okay, that you see running around at the beach. Okay, which one has more? The water animals in shells have more. I wonder why there are more animals in the water with shells than on land.